Stadnyk, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now, for people who want to know what Uncensored is, Uncensored is an unofficial talk show, but I'm trying to turn it into an official talk show. And the whole point I'm making is to show people that even with a learning disability, I can still overcome controversy and reach my goals in life. At the same time, turning myself into a perfect example for people out there deaf, blind, or in a wheelchair. But you should never label yourself or have people label you. You should just prove to them you can still amount to something. Now it's a half-hour, 45-minute conversation. You can say anything you want, talk about whatever you want. This is your time. And for the most part, for my past interviews, I mostly ask the questions.
Right.
But I like my show to be interactive, so you can say anything you want. So you can ask me anything you want. So, like I said, this is your time.
Great.
So starting off, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, about myself. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is in Canada. I started singing at a very young age, and singing was definitely my first passion. My parents caught on to that, so they put me in a few different music theater programs and kind of after-school stuff, and I immediately clung on to that, so I started singing and started into the acting part of everything. And then not until about grade 10 did I start into the dance side of performing, because one of my advisors told me the way the community was going, you had to be a triple threat if you wanted to get anywhere. So I started taking dance lessons at a bunch of different schools in Winnipeg. And as soon as I graduated high school, I left and moved to Oakville, Ontario, which is just outside Toronto, and went to a college there for musical theater and did 3 years there. And since I've been working around Canada and making as many trips to New York as possible as well.
Alright, well, what can you tell us the difference between living in Canada and commuting to New York or out to the States? Is it different? Is it the same?
You know, there's subtle differences, but more and more things are starting to, catch up to each other and be the same. I mean, you walk into an audition room and there's still people behind the table. You go and do a show, there's still the same amount of, supremely talented people and new people in the industry. I think Canada's definitely smaller, but we still have a lot of competition here. But New York, it seems, is still the dream for everybody, even in Canada. I don't think there's many people that dream to end up in Toronto. Everybody still thinks Broadway. So there's a definite thing there, but I hope to always work in Canada, just alongside working in the States.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, how did he get started in becoming an actor?
It was mostly with the singing. I started singing really young, and then I realized it wasn't just singing I liked, it was performing. It was the whole package of it. I liked portraying characters. I liked working on scripts and becoming different people and finding out what makes them tick and exploring that. And obviously I love being in front of an audience. So, that I definitely clung on to at an early age. We used to go over to my parents' friends' houses, and before we even took our shoes off, I would ask if I could sing them a song. Now, since then, I've become a lot more shy and introverted about that stuff, and it takes me, getting a contract and actually having a paying audience to just perform in front of people. But that's what started me out. And then there's a theater company in Winnipeg called Rainbow Stage, and it's a 2,400 seat outdoor theater with a dome over top of it, but it's still open air. And I used to go see shows there all the time as a kid, and I think that's where a lot of my interest in musical theater came from, was going and seeing those shows and wanting to be those people that were up on the stage.
All right. Well, were you a professional wrestling fan, or are you not into that?
Wrestling?
Yes.
I watched it for sure. I definitely watched it. Yeah. It wasn't my biggest thing. I mean, I did sports as a kid. Cycling and hockey were my two sports. So I did mountain bike racing, which was fun. I loved it. Something to do in the summer. And then hockey as a kid. I wasn't huge into wrestling, but my brothers would watch it, so I would watch it on TV when it was on.
Not to sound like a stereotype, but is it really true that Bret Hart and Trish Stratus are a big thing in Canada, or is it just media?
Yeah, I mean, like, Bret the Hitman Hart, I mean, come on, he's, I assume, big everywhere. No, he is. I mean, everybody knows who he is, anyway. Yeah. Do you like wrestling?
Yep, I grew up watching it since I was about 4 years old.
Oh, okay. And did you grow up in New York?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
The first match I ever saw was, actually the first pay-per-view I saw was WrestleMania 10. It was Bret the Hitman Hart taking on his brother Owen Hart.
There it is. An epic match of brotherhood. Yeah.
Now, the other question I was going to ask you is, you mentioned you were in the performing arts. What caught your interest in working in the performing arts?
What caught my interest? I think it was just seeing people on stage, seeing shows. There wasn't a specific show I can think of that, got my attention and I said, I want to do that. I think it was just everything, big production values, and it's not until later on in life did I start to want to do film and TV, because after studying acting and performing, I realized that, film and TV as a medium instead of stage allows you to go even further into some characters and really get nuances that you can't really get on stage because you have to heighten it so much to get to the back of the house, right? So people can see. But stage was definitely, those shows at Rainbow Stage and the Manitoba Theatre Centre piqued my interest right away. And I just loved to sing as a kid. I would, even on the playground, I would call whoever the supervisor was, the teacher, and my friend and I would put on little performances. I'd usually let him take over, and I would just stand in the background. But I would have an amazing fun time doing it.
Well, for an example, what songs did you sing?
We would sing stuff from the Lion King movie or Aladdin, Disney movies, and the song, for some reason, I would always sing at my parents' friend's house was Beach Boys songs. For some strange reason. I don't know why. Maybe my parents played it a lot when I was a kid, but for some reason I would always sing Kokomo for them, and I went through this phase of singing that. So it wasn't always theater. I was interested in, lots of different kinds of music, which I think people in theater strive off of, right? I don't know many people in musical theater that only like one specific kind of music, because you have to kind of have a broad appreciation for everything from country to today's singer-songwriters or pop or even hip-hop and rap, and so I think my love for all kinds of music just culminates in musical theater.
All right.
Yeah. What got you into it? What piqued your interest into performers and theater and all that? I'm assuming you enjoy it if you interview a bunch of people.
Well, when it goes back to being in high school, I had my own talk show. And I didn't really take it seriously because, I did take it seriously, but at the same time I didn't. Because, it was a high school thing, and I just cared about passing the classes and getting out of there. And that brings up the next subject I was going to ask you, school, but we can get to that after. So basically, I was more of a audio-visual nerd. Always making videos, always helping out at the shows, doing the lighting and everything. So at a young age, that impacted my life. That's what I wanted to do. And so I got tired of working in retail. I made myself physically sick. I said, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to do something. I want to start my life. My family's doing, my sister and my brother are doing whatever they're doing. And I was like, I don't want to work in retail. I don't want to stand in one place. I don't want to move backwards. I want to prove to them that, hey, even with a learning disability, look at what I accomplished. Even if it doesn't go anywhere, at least I can say I accomplished something.
Well, so as long as you're doing what you want to do, right?
That's true.
If it makes you happy, right? And some people are very happy working retail, but if that's not your thing, why stick there?
That's true. And then now the question I was going to ask you, did you go to school in the States or did you go to school in Canada? And how different was it?
I went to school in Canada, a place called Sheridan College. It's they have a strong musical theater program. From what I hear of school in the States, I can't really compare the two because I didn't go to school in the States, but I think there are a lot more options in America, right, for schools. So I think the competition between schools is kind of cool. That's kind of neat that you can have that because it raises the level. But on the other hand, I loved going to Sheridan because we had amazing teachers. Because that's where all the amazing teachers would go. There's other programs that are great here too, and they do their thing. But we had a lot of good acting teachers that we had one-on-ones with, and vocal teachers and dance teachers. Whether they were there for the whole 3 years or a year or even classes. It was great to have people that were still performing in the industry. A lot of teachers get teaching degrees and then kind of just speak book smarts at you. But with performing, you can't really throw book smarts at someone. It's about a feeling. It's about where the industry is now, and it's ever growing. So to have teachers in college that were still working, still doing shows, was, I think, invaluable. So I had a good time in college. I took from it what I wanted to. I left what I didn't want, and then kind of move on from there. Continue growing, continue learning.
Well, how would you describe your education? Do you think you got everything you wanted from it, or do you think you could have gotten more?
No, I definitely think they offered everything they could. But I think it's so important not to stop there. Every show I'm in, whether I'm in the ensemble or in a principal role, I'm always learning, watching, my fellow actors and the directors and how they do things. Even if you're not called in a rehearsal, there's something just about sitting at the side and observing how people work and not becoming stagnant, not allowing yourself and the way you perform to stay still. Kind of like what you're saying, working in retail, you realized that you were just standing still and you wanted to grow, you wanted to do something else, so you started to look for something different. I think it's the same thing, even if you're still doing musicals or acting. I think it's the way you do it can always change. So I definitely, at the time, got exactly what I needed from school, but now I've learned 10 times as much just being in the industry and just working. And I've been working with some of the teachers I had in school, so I have them as colleagues now, not just teachers. So it was a great experience. It was a great 3 years, and gave me time to grow up too. Right after high school, 3 years to kind of get used to a different province. I mean, I moved away from home, so that was different, and it was a good experience.
All right. Now next, like I said, I'm going to ask you all the easy questions. Now I'm going to ask you all the hard questions. And you can ask me anything you want, with this.
Okay.
I was going to say, usually I like to make things interactive. So if you have any outfits, you're like, this is the outfit I wore back in high school, and this is the picture or awards for that one. So if you have anything you want to show us, I like to make it more interactive instead of doing the whole, back and forth. And
yeah. I like that. This is the water glass I drink out of. There you go.
The next question I was going to ask you is, did you ever want to work on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or was there any shows that being an actor influenced you to be on or you wanted to work with?
That's a great question. I mean, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Who doesn't want to be a Power Ranger? I mean, that would be awesome. I think I may have dressed as one for Halloween. I don't remember, though. Nor would I admit it, maybe, if I did. But I don't think there's any specific shows that, piqued my interest where I wanted to be that person or do that, I think I loved coming home from school I don't even know whether it was high school or what, but it was probably even younger than that, and watching the Rosie O'Donnell show, because she would always have the Broadway shows on, right? She would always have, the different shows that were opening, do a number on her talk show, and it was kind of amazing to see that. And for someone from a little prairie town in Canada without much access to that, there wasn't, the internet wasn't as vast as it is now. There wasn't much access to just, Googling something or YouTubing something and having it right at your fingertips. So I know it's not really your question, but for the sake of just having a conversation, Rosie O'Donnell's show was definitely a portal to me seeing what was out there. I think I remember seeing the Titanic on Rosie, and it was incredible. And then the Titanic ended up being the first Broadway show I ever saw. Now, it's an interesting first Broadway show to see, but that trip, which was with a music theater company I was with in Winnipeg, I think we saw Titanic, we saw Lion King, Les Mis, and Ragtime all in the same trip. And that was, well, many, many, many years ago. But it was, those were some mega shows to be the first shows to see in New York. Those are some mega hits. Do you remember your first show?
I never went to a Broadway show, but I think the first show I ever went to was back in, what was it? I think in 92. It was Disney on Ice. It's really funny because they recently had their, I think, 20th or 25th anniversary. It's, I said it's amazing that they've been around for that long.
Yeah, I think I went to Disney on Ice. It was probably Aladdin on Ice. Knowing me, my friend and I were in love with the Aladdin movie for some reason. We would perform it all the time. Yeah, I like Disney on Ice. It puts it in a different medium, right? It's like something on stage in a musical, something on TV. Why not put it on ice?
That's true. Actually, while we're on the subject of Disney, and it looks that's uncensored, put you on the spot. Was there ever a Disney character you wanted to make out with? If they were real?
For me, Jasmine, I wanted to be Aladdin, so Jasmine is definitely a draw for me. Kind of exotic, right?
She had a nice butt.
Exactly, right? She can ride on my carpet anytime. Really? But they're always built in a way that you want to be with them. Ariel is a prime example too. I'm not gonna say I wanted to make out with Nala from Lion King, 'cause that's but I guess probably Ariel, and because she was this pretty redhead, and Jasmine.
Now, well, still on the subject,
Yeah.
do you think how they were drawn, well, not drawn, how they were drawn catered to more of an adult audience, even though it's a kid's cartoon? It was supposed to be catered to kids, but do you think at the same time it had an adult edge to it?
Oh, I think absolutely, don't you? I mean, I think it would be bad marketing if they didn't. They would, because parents want to be able to. They want parents to be able to watch it over and over and over again, and while maybe the 12th time they're sick of it, at least they're kind of interested. There's, innuendo in there and that stuff. A couple of Christmases I've done a Christmas panto here, so, it's evil characters, and, the evil stepmom is like a cross-dressing man, and the shows are, they're for children, so they would do, like, a Cinderella type story, or a Robin Hood type story, and they'd sing pop music to tell the story. But they have adult themes, so it's for kids, but adults love it, and adults just get a hoot out of it. The rule in rehearsals always was, if you were improvising kind of a scene, everything was written, but if you were improvising a scene, as long as the parent could explain to the kid that it meant something different, like if you say, "Oh, I like your hard wood," as long as if the kid said, "I don't get why people are laughing," they could say, "Well, that tree is really hard and it's made of wood." That was the rule. Like as long as they could, a parent could explain to the kid that it meant something different, balls to the walls. You could make any kind of jokes you wanted. So, back to Disney, I think absolutely they're not gonna draw not sexy cartoons. They're gonna make them do things. Or now there's all the things that people say they snuck in their movies too, right?
That's true. And now, and don't mind me, I just getting more comfortable.
Oh yeah, oh, dude.
And while on the subject, there's two things. They talk about and they make fun of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, how they picked, oh, you made her an Asian girl because you need a yellow ranger, so you made her yellow. Or you needed a black guy to be the Black Ranger. You got a lot of stupid people out there, number one. But at the same time, it didn't really matter that she was Asian and she was yellow, or he was black and he was a Black Ranger. It was basically, how I see it, is personality, and if they fit the character, then it would make the show more interesting.
Yeah.
I saw the pilot of the Power Rangers, and we had someone, not to say she was a bad actress, but originally she was supposed to be Latina, and I just thought it was more, they were pushing it towards, a certain group of audience, but I didn't think it was more, had potential to it. Not saying she's a bad actress or anything, I just think she wasn't right for the part.
Right for it, yeah. And why do you think they gave it to her?
Well, they didn't. At the last minute, they gave it to the Asian girl, Trini, who passed away. She's someone I looked up to. I had a crush on her.
Nice. There you go.
And the character was named Trini. And then it came across this woman named Tree. So it's like Thy. It's like, well, you have a similar name to the character on the show. Why not? So you can have it.
That's great. Yeah, I don't know. Tell me what you think, but casting and hiring just for the sake of filling, minorities and stuff like that is really, it's a slippery slope, right? I'm definitely not saying don't hire people, but still should be the best person for the job. You know what I mean? My dad is a firefighter in in Winnipeg, and years ago, I don't think it's so much an issue anymore, but years ago there was this big movement to have a certain percentage of women on the force.
Right.
And that's a great thing. I don't think you should ever turn down a woman because they're a woman. But they had a percentage they had to fill. So if that year not many, eligible people applied, then they had to hire those people. And then you think, if your house is burning down, would you rather people that can do it, or make sure that you have this amount of women, this amount of minorities, in the end, it should be who passed the test. Just like in theater, in the end, I think it should be who fits the character. And there's a Black Phantom on Broadway right now, and if he fits the character, that's awesome. That's great. There's no reason not to do that. If it's a publicity stunt, then
right.
I'll
give you a perfect example. What's his name? He passed away. Michael Clark Duncan, from The Green Mile. When they first made him as the Kingpin, I was like, oh, well, you're catering to the blacks. But you know what? He was freaking fantastic as the Kingpin. And I miss him. He was a great actor. He was someone I had on my show.
Oh, really? That's amazing. Yeah, he was incredible. I loved his work.
Going back to the other subject you talked about women, and the next subject I was going to ask you is women's rights. Mm-hmm. There's an episode, I don't know if you saw it, in Rescue Me. They were going on about the same thing you are, about having women firefighters. And I'm for that. And recently they were talking about women serving in the army. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I'm fine with that. It's not the freaking 1920s. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Yeah. So
basically, do you think it's just the media causing more bullshit, or do you think you're just stirring things up to have a story to talk about? Do you think it doesn't really matter if you're capable of doing something? Go and do it.
And I think that's what it comes down to. A person is a person is a person, no matter what. So if that person is capable of doing the job, and more capable than the person beside them, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, any color, it shouldn't matter. And I think that's what the fight is to try and get equal rights. It's not better rights, it's not different rights, it's trying to just get an even playing field. And I think we're making large strides, but I think it's, we still have a ways to go.
Right.
To be honest, I don't know how it is in the States, especially in the business sector, because I'm not in the business sector. I am not a lawyer or a stock market person. I'm very blessed to be doing what I do, to just go pretend like I'm someone else for a living. It's kind of great, to be able to sit and have a conversation with you at 1 o'clock, and I'm not missing work. I'm not, I'm going to a rehearsal tonight. It's from 7 to 11, and that's my work day. So, all that to say, I'm not versed in how things are going in the universe or in the world as far as CEOs and equal pay, but I think we're making strides, but I think we have to continue that. I think the media is an important part of that, because people form all of their opinions from what they see on TV and read in the newspaper, Otherwise, they get their opinions from who they're talking to around the water cooler. And if you're talking to the same people every day, your opinion might be skewed. Just like if you watch the same news channel or read the same newspaper, they're going to have a certain view. So you really just have to read every different opinion to come up with your own opinion.
That's true. Now, wrapping up, do you have any funny stories you like to share, or do you have any other subjects you feel passionate about that you want to talk about?
Well, the other big part of my life is teaching yoga. So, that's all about acceptance and all about it doesn't matter. So it kind of just connects into what we're talking about. And I teach a style of yoga called, in Canada it's called Moksha Yoga, and in the States it's called Modo, M-O-D-O, yoga, and it's hot yoga. And I think, I just bring that up to say that I think they do a great thing of allowing people the time to think for themselves. You know, we're in this hurry up and wait society, right? we all rush, and it's hilarious because people run into the classes and they rush and pay money for silence. People are rushing, and and I think just tying it into what we were talking about, if people just took more time for themselves, if you took 20 minutes for yourself just to let your mind go, not make lists, not think about what happened in the day, not expectations, no judgments, no anything, just like sit with yourself. I think it would be a better world,
Yeah,
because,
I agree with you.
The people making decisions, everybody is human, and I think if people just realized that. I was driving home this morning, and I saw a girl almost get hit by a car. I think she might have been tapped by the car. Rightfully so, she freaked out. And the guy pulled over, and he got out, and he was very apologetic. And this girl in front of her friends was just screaming, and cursing, and fuck this, fuck that, like, how could you... And he's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, well, don't be sorry. You shouldn't have done it. And, of course, she's right. Like, he should not have almost hit her. And he was just sitting there taking the abuse because it was his fault. But it just made me think, like, in that situation, I don't know, what would I do? What would you do? Everybody's had their own day. I don't know, he could have been driving home from the hospital or from a vet just having put his pet down or something and had a tear in his eye and couldn't see. Or she could have had a sibling that had been hit and killed by a car. Like, you never know, and it's, I think it's important to... I don't know why I told that story, but I think it's because it's something that happened in my day that I'm still thinking of. It was an incredible experience to sit back and watch. I pulled over and just unrolled my window to make sure everything was okay. Like, I didn't want a big brawl to start and me having just driven off, But I think it's really important to think about what the other person's going through. You have no idea, right? So
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's fun to sit back and watch. I'm a big people watcher. Do you do that at all? I just, like, in the subway, I'm just like, what's your life? What's your life? And maybe that's the actor part of me. I just love experiencing. I love looking around and sitting in a subway and with 60 strangers thinking, where did you just come from? What brought you here today?
See, I don't know how different it is in Canada. You can have like a normal conversation with somebody. I heard, and you can tell me if this is true or that's people or that's bullshit. Are people extremely super nice in Canada than, say, like in America? Was that a call for yes?
Thought so. I always thought so, right? Because people are extremely nice, especially in Winnipeg. Like, our license plate says "Friendly Manitoba." Right? The province is Manitoba, so like, people are extremely nice, and they'll stop and help you, and they'll do, But we still have our assholes.
Right.
You know what I mean? There are still assholes here, and I think the amount I've been traveling to New York and expecting a lot of people to be cold and jerks, I've been surprised how amazing people are. How personable. Not everybody, a lot of people are just on a timeline, right? So they'll still hold the door for you, but there's a percentage that won't. There's still the percentage here in Canada. It's just less because we have less people. We have a bigger land mass, but less people, so we're spread out. So we're a little less amount of people to notice that are the jerks, you know. But New York, like, people are always willing to help. Even my experiences in LA, people generally, 80% of the time, are willing to help. And if you know what you want and you'll ask for it, once they say, well, what can I do for you? If you're able to say it, they will do what they can to help you in the States. And if you don't know, or you're not assertive enough, they'll just move right on. So it's not, and some people, like some Canadians, might view that as cold, might view that as harsh, but it's just time efficiency, you know, and that busyness of life is just starting, I guess, in the last decade or so, starting to move over here, you know. I live in Toronto, I live in the, like, financial district, basically, so it's one of my challenges in my day, if I just want to go for a walk, to not get caught up in the busy hyperness of people in suits and suitcases walking around, and I'm just going to get groceries. So, like, I get caught up in it, and I have to relax. But it makes me see that, you know, Toronto, Canada, isn't that different. You know, I mean, we have Buffalo right close to us. You know, we're right on the border there, so everything's starting to become the same. But I do love Canadians, but I love my Americans the same. You know, it's just, there are differences, but I think there are differences in every little pocket in every community that you can find.
Well, I tell you a funny story. There's this, you can look it up, it's called WWE Superstars Yelling at Fans.
Okay.
And it's called, this happened 2 times. Batista was at a match, and a fan yells, I hate you, Batista, and he stops and he looks at the fan and says, I hate you too. And the other one was, they said to Chris Jericho, go back to Toronto, and he yells back, I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
Jericho's from Winnipeg, there you go. I learn something new every day. I love that. But see, that's, I mean, as long as that's not scripted, that's great, right? That's playing back and forth with each other. I love that. As much as they can take it, they can dish it right back.
That's true.
Oh, that's good. I like it.
Well, wrapping up, do you have anything you want to say to your fans and listeners?
I just look forward to, you know, doing more exciting projects and seeing people out there, and follow on Facebook and Twitter. And thank you for having me on. I love that you're doing this, and I'm really happy we got to chat for a bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.